This video is made possible by Audible. Get a free audiobook when you sign up at audible.com/RealLifeLore. There are 7 countries in the world that end with the phrase Stan: Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. I should clarify though that these are the 7 countries that end with Stan in the English language. If you switch to Persian, you get places like Hindustan, Mogulistan, and even Lehistan and Engelistan. If you switch to Turkish, you get places like Yunanistan, Serbistan, and Makaristan. So, depending on the language, there's a lot of places that end in Stan. But for the purpose of this video, we're sticking with English because it's the only language that I know, so we're uniting all of the countries here, and we're just gonna see what happens. So first of all, what do we name the country of 7 Stans? The only logical answer, in my mind, is Stanistan, the land of lands. After unification, it would become immediately apparent that Stanistan would be an abomination that never should have been born. This is an ethnic map of Stanistan that shows you just how horribly convoluted this whole idea would be. You'd have large separated areas of ethnic Russians, Kazakhs, Uzbeks, Turkmens, Kyrgyz, Tajiks, Pashtuns, Punjabis, Sindhis, Balochs, and smaller pockets of many, many more, and many of these groups don't exactly get along well with one another. A civil war was fought in Afghanistan largely between the Pashtuns on one side and the Tajiks and Uzbeks on the other side that killed thousands of people. Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan have ongoing unsettled border issues. The Kyrgyz and Uzbeks have fought multiple violent conflicts between each other that have also killed thousands of people, and Tajikistan fought a bloody civil war with itself just in the 1990s. Much of the territory that Stanistan would occupy is some of the most politically unstable land in the entire world, not to even mention the fact that the United States currently occupies a large part of Afghanistan with 13,000 soldiers and is actively fighting a war within the country. Stanistan would immediately be incredibly unstable upon its creation, and this also doesn't even factor in that Pakistan would completely dominate the new country. Stanistan would have a population of 299 million people, which would be the 4th highest population in the world. But Pakistan alone would contribute an overwhelming 71% of that whole population. Stanistan's GDP would be 553 billion USD, the 21st largest economy in the world, but again, Pakistan alone would contribute over 51% of that entire economy. Pakistan would also be the only former country inside of Stanistan that actually has nuclear weapons. They currently control an arsenal somewhere between 150 and 160 nukes, which would make Stanistan a formidable nuclear power. In some ways, Stanistan would simply be an extended and more powerful Pakistan, since Pakistan alone would still make up the majority of the new country's population and economy and all of the country's nuclear weapons. And fascinatingly, the most dominant city within the new country would by far be Karachi, which is home to nearly 15 million people, the 5th biggest city proper in the entire world. Karachi alone is responsible for 1/3 of Pakistan's tax revenue and 1/5 of Pakistan's GDP. Karachi alone has a bigger economy than Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan all combined. A city of 15 million versus 4 countries of 82 million. Stanistan's society would be largely centered around her biggest city, but Karachi is also important because it would by far be Stanistan's biggest port. 95% of Pakistan's foreign trade is handled through the ports of Karachi, which unsurprisingly makes it of critical importance. Because of Pakistan, Stanistan would luckily have ocean access via the Arabian Sea, while also controlling nearly the entire eastern bank of the Caspian Sea, which makes Stanistan one of only 2 countries to have ports on both the Arabian and Caspian Seas. Now, because of Stanistan's strategic location in the center of Asia, the vast majority of overland trade routes between Europe and the Middle East on one side and India and East Asia on the other side would have to pass through the borders of Stanistan. Overland trade routes between Asia and Europe or the Middle East and Asia would either have to pass through Russia or Stanistan. And because of Stanistan's more central location, I suspect that most would opt to go through Stanistan. There are a few geographic advantages that that Stanistan would have, but there would be far more geographic weaknesses. Despite being a huge country, Stanistan would only share borders with 4 other countries: Russia, China, India, and Iran, which are all powerful countries in their own rights. Since Stanistan would be dominated by Pakistan, the new country would naturally inherit the Pakistani rivalry with India, and so wouldn't be likely to find a friend there. This is a map of the Commonwealth of Independent States, an economic and military alliance of former Soviet states that are led by Russia. Stanistan would gobble up a bunch of these former Soviet states that are still friendly to Russia and that have millions of ethnic Russians living inside of them, which would certainly infuriate Russia and spark a rivalry there as well. So right off the bat, Stanistan would be arch rivals with 2 great powers that are right on her borders on opposite sides, and with a massive amount of unrest and internal divisions within the country itself. I highly doubt that Stanistan could seek out Iran as a friend because A, Iran is already a close partner of Russia's and wouldn't be likely to sacrifice that relationship just to become Stanistan's friend, and B, Iran is a majority Shia state with different global policy objectives than a majority Sunni state ruled by Pakistan like Stanistan would have. Like I mentioned previously, the United States is actively fighting a war in Afghanistan, so who knows how that might go down if Afghanistan just became a province of Stanistan. Relations with the US would be complicated no matter how that issue gets resolved, so that basically might only leave China as a potential nearby ally for Stanistan to seek out. But who knows if China would agree to that when India and Russia would both already be looking at destroying the new country and would likely both join in on some kind of alliance against them. Any ruler of Stanistan would face enormous external threats from Russia wanting influence in Central Asia back, as well as wanting to protect millions of ethnic Russians living there, and India wanting to remove a more influential and powerful Pakistan as a threat. Stanistan's ruler would also face enormous challenges at home, with a severely divided and disunited population along multiple different ethnic and linguistic groups, many of which would likely immediately seek independence and ask for support from either Russia, India, or both. Stanistan would struggle to simply exist from day one, with the prospect of both a two-front war from external powers and an internal civil war going on simultaneously. Only the greatest ruler of them all could successfully lead the country through this chaos. So, naturally, why not choose the one true king of Westeros to rule Stanistan, Stannis Baratheon from A Game of Thrones? Stannis would have the military knowledge and the strength to deal with the multiple wars going on in and out of the country, but more importantly, you just gotta admit that King Stannis of Stanistan sounds way too perfect. Now, if you're like me and you were disappointed by how Game of Thrones the TV show ended, you'll be delighted to hear that the books are much better. They go into way more detail and character depth than the show ever did, and you can listen to the entire first book completely for free when you sign up using the link audible.com/RealLifeLore. A Game of Thrones is narrated by Roy Dotrice, who makes all of the characters you remember from the show come alive in brand new ways. It's familiar to the show, but if you haven't ever read the books before, there's enough differences and new characters to keep you engaged for the whole ride. I managed to listen through the entire audiobook during my free time commuting to work, flying on planes, or doing chores around my house, and you can easily do the same thing with this or any other audiobook. If listening through epic fantasy stories isn't exactly your style, that's fine because Audible definitely has something for you. Not only do they have a massive amount of fantastic audiobooks, but they have a ton of other incredible spoken word content, from podcasts to guided wellness programs to theatrical performances to comedies, plus exclusive Audible originals that you won't be able to get anywhere else. So go ahead and sign up by clicking the link in the description or by going to audible.com/RealLifeLore or text RealLifeLore to 500-500 to get a free audiobook of your choice plus 2 free Audible originals. And as always, thank you for watching.